Wasn't that incredible? I was out in the backyard and I heard like a grunt or a groan that just sounded not unfamiliar because I've heard it before. So I got the phone and I came up expecting to see potentially Bigfoot Sasquatch. And I wish I would have had my phone on sooner. I missed this by about 3 seconds. That doe had just given birth to that fawn, and they were laying there together. But of course, when I came around the corner, the mom got up. You got to see that fawn stand up for the very first time, though. That little baby deer that you just saw is less than 2 minutes old right now. I mean, it's amazing. So the grunt I heard was the mother giving birth. I said this sounds not unfamiliar because that's the second time in 5 years that I've lived here I've heard that sound. The first time I was waiting on my son to get home from school down there where we get him from the bus, and I heard that, and about 5 minutes later I saw a doe and a little newborn fawn come out of the woods. So, but that's not what I came up here to talk to you about. I was hoping to maybe get Bigfoot Sasquatch on camera. Guys, I'm breaking my own rule here. I'm going to go talk to you about it from a different location because I don't want to put any pressure on that mother and that new fawn. But guys, this one's going to be political. So buckle up, Buttercup. Okay, I came up below where they were. They are back in the woods up here. I hear them back in there, so they're safe. I'm not posing any sort of, instilling any sort of fear in them right now, which is kind of ironic because that's part of the day's topic I'm going to talk about today. There was a comment on a video I made yesterday. I made a comment or a video just kind of talking about how much I appreciate my family, my wife, my son, because with them I have this amazing thing called unconditional love. And of course I talked a little bit about our background. Everybody knows, my wife's from the Philippines if you watch the channel, and they're over there visiting right now. There was a comment this morning that said, you should let her stay in the Philippines, just send her money, don't have her come back. I will never understand why anybody would marry someone from a culture so different than their own. Somebody left that as a comment on that video. Now, this is where I kind of, I've got to question YouTube, because if somebody were to create content and say that, like if there was a content creator pushing that stuff out there, they get their account shut down, as they should. But you can come at someone like me who's in a biracial marriage, has a multicultural family, and make a comment like that and leave those comments all day long. Well, I assumed, and we know we're not supposed to assume, but I would assume that YouTube's filters somehow missed that comment. So I made sure to report it, so they'll get a second chance to revisit that comment. And that's all I'll say about that. And so, listen, I'm working on a new book that I've mentioned this much about it before, that takes the mask off of the true face of insanity. And let me tell you, everybody's crazy. Everybody's crazy to some degree. But in my humble opinion, the people who are the batshit craziest are the people who are obsessed with politics. Either side, okay, you're probably saying in regard to that comment that I just shared with you, you're probably saying, oh, that's one of those alt-right, backwood, hick, hillbilly, conservative, redneck types. Just don't listen to them. They all support Trump and blah, 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 blah. I don't know what this individual's political views are, and there might be truth in that. But I want to share with you briefly some of the most unpleasant experiences we've had as a biracial, multicultural family has been with people from the opposite spectrum. Look, we get it from everyone on both sides and in between, and I'm not crying a river here. I'm not saying, oh, poor us, No, I want to show you how insane so many people are and how they try to guise their insanity as being political. Okay, listen. Politics has been hijacked to cover up hate, preconceived misconceptions, so many things. Let me get right to it. And I don't want to go into too much detail because I'm writing a book where the characters in the book kind of do these things and say these things. So I don't want to, give the whole book away yet. On the opposite side of the experience we had with the comment, we would often, me and my beautiful bride, Dearly, aka Giggly Girl, Filipina, and our son, half white American, half Filipino, Phil Lamb, they call him in the Philippines, biracial child, we call these individuals here. We would often get approached like when we were newly in the U.S., and we live outside of Charlottesville. It's a political area, and most of the folks are left, some of them way left. We don't care. We do not care about politics. And we've learned that when you tell people that, so many of them, they think you're lying to them. They assume that you obviously think the opposite of them, and you just don't want to debate politics with them, because so many people who are obsessed with politics love to debate. And the reason you don't want to debate them is because you'll lose, because they're so much smarter than you and they're so much more correct than you in their views. Brah, I don't care. My wife doesn't care. We care about our family, our lives, what we got going on. So here's what we'd often run into with the opposite side, the people on the left. Opposite of what many of you are probably assuming the person that left that nasty comment today thinks. They would say stuff like, so wow, you guys must live in total terror worrying about, your wife getting deported and sent back to the Philippines. And I would say, well, why would that happen? She's here legally. We just spent a year and paid $5,000 to an immigration attorney to go through the process to get her here legally. My son's a U.S. citizen because, by birthright. And they would say, well, if that guy up in the White House has his way, she's going back to the Philippines and your son's probably going too. That must be terrifying to... Here's what those people were doing. They were trying to get us to think like them. And the tactic they would use to do that would be to try to instill fear in us that a worst case scenario was going to happen to our family. That person, and there was more than one, trust me, they didn't care about my wife's well-being and our family staying together. They obviously hated Donald Trump, and they wanted us to hate Donald Trump as well. And so they figured the best way to get us to hate Donald Trump would be to scare us into believing something terrible was going to happen to our family. My wife and son would be deported, even though they were here legally, because of Donald Trump. Well, not only did we not buy into that, because we don't care, I'd call them out on it. And I'd tell them, I'd say, I know what you're doing here. You're trying to get us to think like you. You're trying to get us to hate Donald Trump because you hate Donald Trump. We don't hate anybody. We're not fans, but we're not going to hate the guy. I'm not fans of Biden. I don't hate the guy. Whoever is president, personally, I want to see them succeed, because when the president succeeds, America succeeds. And I love my country. I fought for it in Iraq. I don't know how long Biden's going to be in office. I hope he's very successful while he's there. If he gets replaced by a Republican, I hope that Republican that replaces him is successful while he or she is there. That's my honest take on it, okay? As far as which party they belong to, I don't care. All right, so here's what would happen after I would tell that lunatic who was trying to get me and my wife and our son to lose sleep at night, fearing that ICE was coming to get them when they weren't, because they're here legally. They would have a paradigm shift. You remember, or not really a paradigm shift. No. They would have a preconceived misconception shift is what it was. You remember when we were kids, they had those I can't remember what they're called. They looked like cameras. They were red, and you stick these little discs in them, and they have pictures, and you flip the thing, and it flipped the thing, and it changes the lens. Well, once these people who told us, they identified as progressive liberals who voted Democrat, and I'm not picking on Democrats, and I'm not picking on Republicans. Anybody who is an extremist and who would try to instill fear or hate in someone else to make them think like them is a lunatic. Period. Okay? So what they do is they go, oh, I get it, and they go click, click, and they change the image of their preconceived misconceptions. And once they saw, we didn't hate Donald Trump because we were a multicultural, biracial family with, an immigrant wife in the picture and a son born overseas. They thought, okay, I get it. Older white male married to a younger, beautiful woman of color from a third world country. He's a misogynist. He's a pig. And he married her. We know why. That's it, period. So then, I'm going to use an example of one of these lunatics, okay? Started out with the, oh, wow, you guys must hate Donald Trump thing because he's trying to deport your family. No, we don't hate Donald Trump. We don't care. No, nobody's trying to deport our family because everybody's here legally. Switch over to the preconceived misconception that I'm a abusive, misogynist, whatever. So this person had come around a couple times. Once she saw that we weren't going to hate Donald Trump for something he wasn't. My wife was here legally. We never had a concern while that man was in office about her getting sent back. So she starts coming over, stopping by occasionally when she goes by and sees us out. And so we walked up to greet her one day, and because I shut her down. When I called her out on that, she stopped. She didn't say anything more about it. And she kind of switched gears, started talking about other things. That's fine with us, man. Hey, no hard feelings here. Don't try to scare me into thinking the way you do, okay? And we're going to be okay. So then she'd come by and she'd say, we'd go over to tell her hi, and she'd look at me and she'd say, I'd like to just talk to Dearly alone. I was like, okay. I'm thinking, girl time, right? All these girls like girl time. It's good for my wife. She's new here. Didn't have a lot of friends at the time. Now, she does now. She's got a lot of friends, good friends, a lot of other Filipino friends, a lot of born and raised in America, never left America friends. Okay? Black, white, liberal, conservative, whatever, dude. Human beings who are real. And they're truly friends because they would never, ever attempt to scare my wife into thinking something nasty, which is never going to happen, would happen so she would think like them. People like that are not your friends. They're not even worthy of being your acquaintance. When you see them, go the other way. That's what we do, because this woman further went on to identify herself as such, in that her and Dearly, they'd talk for a while, then she'd leave. And I was like, well, what'd she have to say? She's like, oh, she's trying to get me to go to Starbucks with her and meet some people or whatever. I was like, well, you should do that. I mean, go meet some more people. And she was like, well, I told her, me and you go to Starbucks sometimes, and I just like hanging out with you and Daniel. And I'm the same. I mean, I like my friends, and I always appreciate the times that we get together and spend together, but pretty much the only people I truly desire to hang out with is my wife and my son. Other than that, I'm good to go. It's a superpower of an empath, of an introvert. And especially when I'm writing a book, which I am now, I don't need other people's thoughts so much entering my head at this time, because I've got the thoughts of my characters and the general direction I'm going with this storyline. I don't want it to be interrupted right now. So once I get this, at least the first draft, really pushed out, maybe then, I'll be a little bit more social. So anyway, this particular woman just stopped coming around someday. And I just thought, well, that's weird. She just doesn't come around anymore. So one day, we're downtown in Charlottesville, and we drive by this place, and Dearly points at it, and she goes, hey, what is that place? And so I look over, and it was, I can't remember the name of it. It's one of the shelters for battered women and children. I'll tell you, I love Charlottesville. I love it. And the people are wonderful. Yes, a lot of them are political, but not all of them are. And most of them won't engage you in political discussion if you don't want to go there. There are places in town where if you truly need help, you can get help. And that's a wonderful thing, because I know in a lot of places people can't get the help they need. In Charlottesville, there are several places like this. There's one, I run their 5K in October. It's called Shelter for Help 5K. It's for battered women and children. Well, this was another one down on High Street. It's something I can't remember the name. I'd say it if I would, because I'd like to make people aware of the fact that they're out there. Something Jefferson. Everything's named after Thomas Jefferson around here. But I told my wife Dearly, Well, that's where, you know, if you're an abused a wife, or you're abused mother, or abused child, and you need help, and you don't have anybody to go to, and you don't have any money, you can go there and they'll help you. And she's like, oh, that's weird. And I said, well, why is that weird? And she goes, you remember so-and-so? And it was the woman that used to come around, first tried to get us to hate Donald Trump out of trying to make us terrified into thinking that he was trying to deport my wife, which he never tried, never happened. He's gone. She's still here. So then she would come around, and for some reason, you know what? What I found out that day was that woman was coming around doing social health and welfare checkups on my wife and my kid, because once she determined that I was not willing to hate the president that she hated, she took that to heart to mean that I must have supported the president that she hated, and therefore the situation was that I was a misogynist and I was abusive. That last time she came here to what I thought have girl talk, but which was obviously her final health and welfare checkup, she told Dearly that if she ever needed to go to that place, that Center for Abused Women and Children, to call her immediately and she would take her there. She didn't tell her what the place was for. She just said, there's a place in town called such and so where you can get help if you ever need it. If you need help, you call me and I will make sure that you get to this place. So my point to this is, yeah, the person that left that nasty comment today is obviously a lunatic. There's no place for that here. But don't write it off as if it's just because, you know, they're alt-right, conservative, Trump-loving Republicans. We have had to deal with sheer insanity, like the story I just told you, with people who identify as progressive, leftist, liberal Democrats. People are lunatics. People are nuts. And I don't think it has anything to do with politics. Listen, this idea that if you're a conservative, you're a Republican, you must hate minorities and everybody who's not white, straight, and Protestant, I'm telling you, that is not the case through my experience. And to say that, you know, if you're a liberal, leftist Democrat, you must be a American-hating socialist communist. I'm going to finish it up with this, man. I'll tell you, I talked before about how I do have this group of friends, and they're all alpha males. There's about 5 or 6 of us that get together a couple times in the summer and in the fall, and we sit up here at the campfire, and we just hang out. We have a good time. We don't discuss politics because we're not into that. Our lives are not so one-dimensional. But let me tell you about one of these guys. It's one of my best friends, okay? He is as left, really, as you can get. He is a liberal Democrat. He is a progressive liberal, votes Democrat. He is also a multiple combat tour veteran. He fought in Iraq. He served in Mindanao, same island where I met Dearly. If you honestly were a threat to this great nation, he would get rid of you, and he still serves this great nation, and I cannot say to what capacity, but in a capacity to where he can get rid of you. If you are an anti-American, you're going to bring harm. You are a threat, he'll take you out, brah. And he votes straight ticket Republican all day long. Does he hate people who are... He doesn't hate anybody. There's no hate in his heart. You cannot turn hate, ignorance, and preconceived misconception into politics, because what you're doing is you're hijacking politics. You're a lunatic. People who are lunatics, period. Stop trying to cover it up and say, well, no, I just think this way. No, you're just a lunatic. Keep your insanity away from my family. See you next time for more.